My business plan is jokes for money, remember? But somehow after 9/11, I became famous in Denmark for telling jokes about terrorists. I became famous and I made a lot of money. And looking back at it now, maybe I was making money off people's fears. You can consider this show an apology. Everybody's trying to sell you fear, but the worst of them all is the media, the news media, and the politicians. The politicians have gone crazy with selling us fear here in the free Western societies. Politics used to be a contest of ideas and ideology, not anymore. Today, politics is a race of fear. Whoever can make you the most scared wins. Vote for me because that guy, he's going to take your pension and your firstborn. No, you should vote for me because that guy, he's going to take away your free will and tax your soul. Politics is just a race of who can make us the most afraid. We're not voting on which direction our society should take. We're voting on who to be scared of. And it doesn't really matter who wins an election anymore. Because nothing changes. Because we don't want change as a people. Change makes us uncomfortable. Too much change makes us scared, and then we just become nationalistic or Republicans. Obama got elected on promising change. And we like it when politicians talk about change, but we don't actually want them to change anything. They can adjust stuff, and if a politician is really courageous, he'll make a big adjustment, but don't change anything. Obama ended up selling us the same fear as George Bush did. We're back in Iraq for the third time. Like even Rihanna and Chris Brown are going, come on. This is the fourth war in the war on terror. I think we should bomb one more country. Because then you get the last stamp in your little card and you all get free coffee. Plus you get 50% off the sixth war. Now the war on terror has created so much fear of Muslims all over the Western world, all the way from the United States to Australia. Politicians are selling their voters' fear of Muslims and immigrants. In this country, 3 elections have been won on creating fear of Muslims. It's become so bad, I think we Muslims are pretty close on taking over spiders as the number one phobia. Next time I meet Meta, I'm going to be wearing a cotton coat and yellow rubber boots. It all started after 9/11. People became so afraid of Muslims, some people were talking about us as if we were vampires. It's like, don't use garlic, it just attracts them. And just always carry a small piece of bacon in your pocket. And if you have to run towards Mecca. It kind of confuses them. I've heard if you stab a Muslim in the heart with a knife made of bacon, they turn into dust. It's real weird being on the receiving end of fear. Like after 9/11, I started getting weird phone calls from journalists asking me questions like, what's your attitude on the stoning of women? What do you mean stoning of women? Like a joint? No, like you throw joints and... I don't know. Never tried it. But we can call up an ex-girlfriend or two and, see how it works out. Before we invaded Iraq the first time, people in this country actually started questioning my loyalty to Denmark. And they would give me these weird questions. Like, Omar, imagine the Iraqi army was standing outside the borders of Denmark. Would you fight? Would you fight? Honestly, no. I wouldn't. Because if the Iraqi army was outside the borders of Denmark, that means that they've beaten every other army all through Europe. We don't have a chance. I think we should resist, blow stuff up, but then you will call me a terrorist. This is a lose-lose situation for me. The world went crazy, man. I actually stopped writing jokes at one point and just told people about my life because it became so absurd. This is like 2-3 years after 9/11. I have 4 brothers. My third brother is called Osama. Yeah, and Osama works as a flight mechanic. This is a true story. He works as a flight mechanic for Scandinavian Airlines, SAS. He doesn't wear a name tag when he's working. And some people think it's racist. In our family, we think it's cool enough, you know. Nobody wants to be sitting in a plane seeing the pilot sticking his head out going, Osama, did you fix the wings? So me and Osama, we were going to New York. We have an aunt who lives in New York. And Osama, he bought the tickets because this is how it works. If you work for the airlines, you get really cheap tickets, but you're not guaranteed a seat on the plane, so you get like a stack of tickets, so you could take a flight, the next flight, or a flight the day after. And me and Osama knew that the trip was going to be shit, and we thought we're just going to have a sense of humor about it. I didn't pack a bag because I knew that they were going to check my stuff for hours. So I was just wearing all the clothes that I needed. And try not to look suspicious as I was passing through security. We get to the airport and we go up to the counter and I say, hi, we would like 2 seats next to the cockpit, please. No sense of humor whatsoever. And it's a long flight, Copenhagen, New York. It's like 7-8 hours. After 2 hours, me and Osama were getting a bit bored. And we have this game we play where you take turns and run down and knock on the door to the cockpit and shout, Jihad! No sense of humor whatsoever. So we get to JFK Airport and we get through passport security a bit too easy. And we said, there's something wrong here. And then, truly enough, a guy comes and said, we would like to interview you 2 guys. And they're very polite and put us in a room and we have to fill out this form like why we're there, who do we know, who do we work for. And it was a huge problem for me because the people that I work for are called FBI. And here in Denmark, it's a comedy agency for comics. Then what they do is they book comics out, and it's short for Funny Business Incorporated. And I could see I couldn't write FBI on the form. You don't believe me? You can Google it. Google Omar Marzouk and FBI. A picture of me, rent a comic. So I was filling out the form, and I had to explain it to the officer, so I write FBI equals Funny Business Incorporated. And I give him the slip. And he reads it and says, ha ha ha. Very funny. So you're a comedian, are you? I go, well, actually I am. He said, you're making fun of me. No, I am a comedian. And he said, who's that? That's my little brother. What's his name? I said, that's Osama. What does Osama do? You're not going to believe me, but he's a flight mechanic. He said, are you making fun of me? I said, no! That's his job. Then he said, I would like to see your return flight ticket, please. And I thought, oh my God, because we didn't have one, we had 40. So I go over to Osama and grab this huge stack of tickets. And I give it to him, and he's flipping through and going, very suspicious, very suspicious. And I said, I can understand that you think that. Then he said, are you really a comedian? I said, yes, I am. Then he said, say something funny now. And that's a lot of pressure. So I looked at him and said, listen, I know where Osama is. He said, where? I said, right over there. And luckily he laughed. He had a sense of humor. We had a great time in New York. Met a lot of cool people. Met some stupid ones too. We did. It's like in every country. Met a couple of Americans where I actually had to explain that Denmark is a country and not the capital of IKEA. Yeah. I did a show there. It was weird. I was making fun of the whole war on terror and telling our story with the airline. And a guy from the audience, he got so mad at me. In the middle of the show, he just got up and said, fuck you, man. Your country's next. Yeah, I got scared. And confused. Because I didn't know if he meant Denmark or Egypt. Imagine coming back to Denmark. I think I just might got us bombed. Sorry. Maybe you meant IKEA. I'm not sure. I'd love to see that on TV. Bush going, yes, we know that the IKEAns. Who? The IKEAns have furniture of mass discomfort, which can be assembled within 45 minutes, if you can read the instructions. It was a crazy time. And everybody was looking for Osama. They finally found him in Pakistan. We Muslims knew he was in Pakistan all the time. We did. And the Denmark sent troops to Afghanistan. We knew he was in Pakistan. We sent troops down there. I was sitting at home going, you're getting warmer. You're getting warmer. But nobody listened. I knew he was in Pakistan because if there's anybody that can make stuff disappear, it's the Pakistanis. And I say this with the biggest respect for Pakistanis. Some of my closest friends are from Pakistan. I just haven't seen them in a lot of years. They finally got Bin Laden. I was glad when they shot Bin Laden because I thought maybe this fear of Muslims would decrease a bit. The only thing that pissed me off was I saw Obama on TV telling the world that they have given Osama a traditional Muslim burying. They threw him in the sea, in the ocean. That's not a tradition we Muslims have. We're a desert people. Do you know how far we have to walk? You don't throw anybody in the ocean. The sand ocean. Yeah, that would be a more appropriate. Yeah. I have to write that joke in. We'll do it all again. No. The fear level of Muslims actually dropped a bit after the shot of Bin Laden. And it actually, at one point, there was no fear of Muslims because something special and terrible happened here in Scandinavia. Anders Breivik. Anders Breivik, a white Christian terrorist, killed 69 people on a deserted island. Scary shit, yeah? This was the biggest terror incident in Scandinavia. And all Muslims were sitting at home going, whoo. That wasn't us. That was not us. Habibi, we can go out tonight. It wasn't us. It wasn't us. Breivik bombed a government building and killed 8 people, and then he went to the island of Utah and massacred 69 people. It was horrible. And I'm not proud of this, but after that incident, if I have to go flying and I discover it's a Norwegian guy in front of me, I'll get kind of scared. I'm not saying that all Norwegians are terrorists. That's not what I'm saying. I would never judge a whole people on a single man's insane actions. That would be stupid and ignorant and ironic and a lot of other things. I'm just saying, if it happens, you kind of wonder a bit. You get a little bit scared. I actually tried it once. I was going to London, standing in the check-in for an airplane, and I discovered it was a Norwegian guy just in front of me. I heard him talking on the telephone going, hoodly hood. Yeah. International for Norwegian. And then he goes up to the counter, and the girl behind the counter, she just checks him in without checking him proper. And I know how you get checked proper. So I'm thinking maybe she didn't notice that he was Norwegian. So I thought I would tell her when it was my turn. I went up to the desk and said, hi, yeah, excuse me. I think that guy over there is Hoodly Hood. She said, what? I said, that guy is the type of guy who does all his shopping in Statoil. She didn't get it. I said, that guy, he likes snow, downhill. What? That guy! He's not afraid of deserted islands. And she just took her mind and said, security? I have a guy we should check proper. Anders Breivik changed the face of fear for a short while. It was the biggest terror attack here in Scandinavia, a white Christian man. I like the old school terrorists more. I'm not comfortable with this change in terrorists. No, Anders Breivik, he wrote a manifest before he did his hideous act, 1,500 pages long. Who has time to read that? I'm dyslexic. It would take me a year. No, I like Bin Laden more. All you had to do was dig up your old VHS player and press play, and in 5 minutes you were up to date. But for a short period of time, the face of fear changed. But not for long. Because if you're in the fear business, you're going to need a steady supply of fear. And nobody is as reliable as the Middle East when it comes to fear and terror. Bin Laden died, but wham, we got ISIS. Bin Laden's dead, we got ISIS. The ISIS scared the world silly with their beheadings. They didn't use airplanes, they used social media, which is a much more powerful weapon than airplanes, because now fear is everywhere. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Tinder. And our media and our politicians are all too willing to sell us this fear. And maybe we need them. Maybe we need them to tell us who to be afraid of, so we can feel safe. Because only when you know in which direction to look for the danger do you feel safe. But maybe we also end up looking the wrong way. My best example of this is in the States. In the States, there's been 35 school shootings. That's not enough to ban semi-automatic weapons. But after 9/11, I can't even bring a bottle of water on board for security reasons. They go, what are you afraid of? Are the pilots gremlins, or what are your fears? I guess it's easier to live with fear when you know who to fear. First, then, can you be happy? But it's a false kind of happiness. True courage is knowing what not to fear. I wanted to start a revolution. I wanted to start a revolution against the fear that they're selling us. Remember the cotton coat and the yellow rubber boots? I want you to ridicule your fears. Why? Because you haven't lived. You haven't lived if you haven't looked fear in the face and enjoyed it. My biggest fear is not being funny. But I still have a pretty good time tonight. So, it's okay to be scared. It's a natural thing. Fear is a survival mechanism. Just don't let them scare you silly. You're supposed to end a show with a big laugh, but I'm not afraid of not being funny anymore. Thank you so much for listening to me.